A to the K.
A to the K.
A to the K.
Coming up tonight on the Ringside Report. Vince McMahon retires age 77.
Triple H appointed head of creative and EVP of talent relations.
Brock Lesnar walks out of Smackdown.
Bray Wyatt drops another hint ahead of potential in-ring return.
Ken Anderson reveals he's open to a WWE managerial role.
Maxi Dupri reportedly done with WWE.
Jonathan Gresham requests his Ring of Honor release.
Rey Mysterio updates on his future in wrestling.
And is Lana returning to wrestling? Anthony, when will we find all that out, and when's everything coming up?
It's all coming up right fucking now.
Yes, it is. Also, that was a really hard one to say. Jonathan Gresham requests his Ring of Honor release. Like, if I was Jonathan Ross, I'd be fucked. That's all I'm saying. So, let's dive
I think he'd
into
struggle with Ring of Honor, to be honest.
Well, exactly, but Jonathan Gresham requests Ring of Honor release. Like, that's a hard thing to say. Anywho. So, let's chat about Vince McMahon, shall we? Vince
Let's talk about Vince.
has announced his retirement age 77 by posting a tweet, of course. The least, like, who had that on the fucking predictions a few years ago, you know, on the bingo card? How is Vince going to retire? Via tweet.
Vince retires by tweet.
So he tweeted out, at 77, time for me to retire. Thank you, WWE Universe. Then, now, forever, together. Hashtag WWE, hashtag thankful. So, as we know, Vince took an interim leave of absence from his chairman and CEO responsibilities, but he did remain on creative in that period. However, he has now officially retired, and it's been reported from the likes of Fightful that he is actually done with the company. So it's not a case of, yeah, I'm definitely retired, but still running things via like telephone and Zoom, like from my house. Like, he's apparently legit done, like no involvement from a creative standpoint or anything like that. Now, it is worth noting that he is still the largest shareholder in the company, and so ultimately, with them being a public company, they still have to appease their shareholders. So, yeah, will we see any major changes? I'm not too sure. But, as it seems, no Vince McMahon. And obviously, this all comes after speculation that there's set to be some even more damning news set to emerge from the ongoing investigation into Vince at the moment. But damn, did you expect this? Did you expect this to happen? Obviously, we just did our What If episode where we, which is now outdated. Thank you, Vince. Which was like, well, what if Vince?
Thank you, Vince.
I can't remember what it was. What if Vince resigns? Was it, or what if Vince leaves?
What did we specifically call it?
I can't remember.
Hold on.
I think it might have been resigned. Which, so technically, we didn't expect him to retire or
Yeah,
something. But yeah,
we caused it. We caused it, technically.
We did. But obviously,
It was. What if? Where'd it go?
What if Anthony finds
What
it?
if Vince McMahon resigns? And then,
There we go.
lo and behold, a few days later, Vince McMahon resigns.
There you
So
go.
we answered that what if. Well, Vince answered it for us. Thanks, Vince.
So, yeah.
Turns
And
out
weirdly,
we were right about a lot of shit, though.
yeah, weirdly, we got a lot of that spot on the nose, to be fair, in terms of who would take over, who would get power, where it would go creatively, and things like that. So,
Yeah.
Who
Well,
knew?
speaking of who would take over, Carl, like, I'll move swiftly on over. If that's in order, are we done celebrating
We are
Vince's
done.
career?
We are done celebrating. It was short and sweet.
Well, much like his retirement speech. You know, so many people got super angry about yeah, Vince, the wrestling wouldn't be what it was today without him. It's like, okay, cool. Like, I don't know why we're getting so angry. He chose to retire. Like, not like he got pushed out of the business. May have got motivated.
Well.
But he kind of said, "Hey, I'm going to retire," and being the stubborn old bastard that he was, he could have insisted on staying, but he chose not to. It's all a choice. I'm cool with it. It's fine.
This is true.
He did a lot of fucked up shit too, so, it is what it is. Anyway, Apparently, Carl. I say apparently, it's a foregone conclusion. I think it's been reported by WWE themselves. But Triple H will now be assuming the position of the Executive Vice President of Talent Relations, as well as being head of creative. So
busy man.
This is interesting stuff. So obviously, for those not in the know, since Vince retired many hours ago, it's been revealed that Steph will be co-CEO along with Nick Khan. And then on top of that, we get this reveal. So this has been, firstly, a big indicator that John Laurinaitis is pretty much done with WWE as well. Hasn't had the same retirement speech as Vince, but it seems he's pretty done. There's actually been some unnamed wrestlers who've referred to John Laurinaitis as a snake, so I don't think he's very well liked either, personally, backstage. But what is well liked and well thought of is a lot of the talents are said to be absolutely made up with the fact that Triple H is back and he's in the position he's in. So obviously he was in pretty much totally running the show with NXT, and a lot of people give him a lot of credit for his work there. And then, due to health reasons and various other reasons, he was sort of pulled away from those positions. And now he's just full force back into it, Carl. So he's going to serve in Laurinaitis' old position as the Executive Vice President of Talent Relations and Head of Creative, which was formerly Vince McMahon's position. And this is exciting times. Like a lot of, you get some negative people on the internet like, oh, nothing's going to change. But I think we've seen from NXT that the Triple H style of things can work and can work well. And I'd love to see what he's going to do with we again in our prediction series, Carl, we talked about not prediction series, in our What If series, we talked about if Triple H took over, the way we did it was that he would take over the TV 14 version of Raw, and that again, the concept of that alone, we were like, yeah, that would be awesome, and that's essentially he's got the whole bag, but that's essentially what we're getting. So I can't wait to see what he does with it. Although you've rightly pointed out, TV 14 is probably not going to mean for a great deal of changes, but here you go.
Well, you see, the thing is, for talent, you have to remember it's all about the game and how you play it. So
all about control.
Yeah, and how you take it, which he very much firmly has. But yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, does this mean the likes of Kevin Owens and that are going to get more screen time, more, actual opportunity to be in the main event scene and stuff like that? Like, hopefully. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. So I believe the first Triple H run show, as in like totally him, is said to be SummerSlam. But I still imagine they would have predetermined a lot of these match finishes ahead of time.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, when you say full control, you got to imagine it's going to have to be once some storylines are closed and we start some new ones, because he's going to have to end a lot of stuff that was already running, isn't he? So
well, that's it. Even though WWE doesn't know where it's going week to week, like the thing is, we have got storylines that have kicked off and are in effect, so they need to somehow come to a natural conclusion before we can kick off brand new storylines and introduce new segments to the shows and stuff like that. So it's not going to be something which is massively, an overnight change. But it's like we were saying in This Week in Wrestling, maybe it's a Mandela effect, but Raw felt better this week. It's obviously the first Raw where Vince, wasn't running things as such, so it may have already been written and already planned out, but essentially, can we already potentially start to see some of the changes that Triple H might introduce? But yeah, it's an interesting one. It seems like a good thing. I can't fucking wait to see what they do with NXT. Like, do we get NXT 3.0, blacker and golder? Like, I don't know.
The suggestion seems to be that NXT is still going to be ran by Shawn.
Yeah, so, it could be, actually.
It's probably just going to carry on being like, all about the sex appeal, like Shawn used to be.
Oh yeah. I mean,
he thinks he's cute.
Not that I need another reason not to watch it, but yeah, with Shawn Michaels at the helm, it just makes that decision even easier, doesn't it? Which is a shame, because there's elements on the show like Toxic Attraction and stuff like that, which are, good TV. Hopefully they make their way to the main roster. But
good TV.
Not gonna bring yourself down to watch NXT. Put it that way. But yeah, well done to Triple H. Obviously, after having to take that hiatus because of his health conditions and stuff, everything's coming up Triple H right now. He's EVP of Talent Relations. He's the head of creative. It's all on his shoulders at the moment. So let's see what he does.
Truly is the King of Kings.
Indeed. So, some people who weren't super happy, Anthony, with the Vince McMahon walkout is reportedly none other than Brock Lesnar. Now, after Vince revealed the big news on his Twitter, it was reported that Lesnar walked out of Smackdown and was said to be pissed off, stating something to the effect of, "Well, if he's gone, I'm gone." Now, I believe Brock was meant to open the show, and he was obviously all over the WWE website and stuff like that, talking about he's going to be on SmackDown. This all got removed, and essentially we had the opening of Stephanie McMahon starting a "Thank you, Vince" chant and the like. However, Brock did actually return for the end segment, and so it's left people thinking, well, what happened? Have we been worked? Did he really go? Everyone doesn't know what's happening, that kind of stuff. So Fightful Select have noted that in a behind-the-scenes source reacted to the situation by calling it overblown, but admitted they were unsure if he'd end up actually appearing on the blue brand. Creative even produced another script for the show that didn't feature Brock Lesnar whatsoever, which was reflected in the rundown released before they went live. They decided to leave the last segment of the night open in a way that Lesnar could make his return and be involved if that's what he chose to do. Now, as we saw, that seemed to be the case. He was very much involved.
But the thing is, again, Vince retired. Like, isn't that the kind of reaction you should have if, like, they sacked him?
True. It's an interesting one with Brock in it. I think Brock is very loyal to Vince. I think there's only two people that Brock is loyal to, and it's Vince and Paul Heyman. So,
but again, there's a suggestion then, isn't there? Like, there's an inference here. Like, Vince has gone, "It's time for me to retire," and Brock's gone, "There he goes, I'm going." It's like, so you don't feel this is a retirement then?
Well, I mean,
because that's unnecessary loyalty, isn't it? If you're quitting because he's retired, that just suggests that this isn't a retirement. This is him being forced out behind the scenes.
Well, it's impeccable timing for retirement in the midst of an ongoing investigation.
No, I'm sure he always
reveal more and more
by tweet midway through 2022. I'm sure that was always the plan.
Of course, that was the way he always laid it out. But yeah,
well, I'm just saying, like, that's too loyal. Like, if you're Brock's mate, right, and you're there, like, I'm gonna head home. This party's running a bit late for me. I'm gonna head home and get some sleep. And he just stands up and he's like, "Well, I'm going too." You're like, "Okay, chill."
Well,
maybe just because Vince is retired, maybe don't start out. That's all I'm saying.
Well, Anthony,
I wouldn't say to his face.
I'm a loyal friend. I would do that for you. So it just speaks volumes that you wouldn't do that for me. That's all I'm saying.
It depends. Anyway. Are you retiring or are you quitting?
I was forced out the party, Anthony. I had to say I wanted to go home early. Okay.
I'm just saying,
terrible things revealed about me.
At the tender age of mid-30s, not declaring it, I choosing to retire from this podcast. Are you gonna just storm out?
No.
Yeah, you're gonna replace me with
would.
Probably.
Yeah, actually. That's a great idea. Actually, we're accepting resumes now. Anybody whose name starts with A, hit me up.
Yeah, it's the only criteria because I'm not changing it.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll maybe pay for a new artwork of your face, but it's staying A2theK. That's all I'm saying.
Love it. So okay, Brock, that's fine. But he turned up, so it's all good.
Indeed.
So to tell you who's not turned up yet, though, Carl. Segue. Smooth like butter. So Bray Wyatt, and I'm okay. Look, get this a fair bit now. I'm not putting this down. Everyone's excited to see what Bray's going to do next. But we've had another cryptic tweet, Carl. I'm not going to dress it up. He put a picture up that is probably relevant more so than I'm aware of. But he put a creepy picture up and he put a quote with it saying, "I will place on his shoulder the key to the house of David. What he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open." So obviously, naturally, Twitter is aghast with this. They want to know, who's David? No, they want to know, when's Bray Wyatt returning? Where's he returning to? What's going on? What's with the picture? That was one of the things I was wondering. Anyway, so another incredibly vague tweet, so we don't know what the situation is. There's still speculation over where he's going to end up. I think the speculation is getting quite heavy towards WWE now, especially with the whole Triple H situation. But Carl, it seems like it's going to be happening soon.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, interesting the words he used. Is he implying that it's a door, like that the door is not closed, it's once again open, or something like that? In which case,
I mean,
WWE.
the word, and I take your points. Yeah.
Seems to be where my mind went anyway when I saw it. But it's an interesting one. Does the stuff with Triple H change things? Maybe. I think it probably goes beyond Vince in terms of the reports saying that, because I mean there was a lot of conflicting reports, wasn't there? There was people saying that Bray wanted time off and stuff because of what happened with Brody and that kind of thing. People were saying that it was his backstage, kind of persona and how he was reacting to things and creative, and he was difficult to work with and stuff like that. So, was that person just Vince that was difficult to work with? Is it the rest of the writing room? Are they just going to bring him back? Who knows? But either way, wherever he ends up, I say this every time we talk about him, is I just want to see him soon. The longer it drags out, it's not like I guess we're losing time. Is what I'm trying to say. Like, the quicker he comes back, the more that we'll be like, okay, you can recapture something. But the longer it takes, the more time you'll be like, yeah, I've kind of moved on a bit.
I think that's the thing. Like, there's only so long. Like, let's be honest, CM Punk was getting to a point that it'd be like he's been away too long. Like, I mean, he left it much longer, it wouldn't have really had the same impact. And I think we get, like you say, you get to a point where it's like, okay. I mean, he keeps it, he spices it up for us with some tweets here and there, but we need to get to a point that they pull the trigger.
Well, exactly.
I'm trying to find a connection. I'm trying to break this code. Host of David was based in Michigan. Any notable wrestling companies Michigan based?
Not that I know of. Maybe there's an upcoming pay-per-view in Michigan.
We can crack this. Bear with me.
So Detroit's in Michigan, isn't it? What's happening in Detroit?
Detroit.
So Anthony's going to be sussing that out for the rest of the show. But meanwhile,
do we know any wrestling promoters named David?
David Crockett.
Something here. There's a code.
There you go, David Crockett.
Break the code.
He's Ric Flair's last match. What?
No. But yeah. So remains to be seen. Apparently his price was rather high for AEW, so I don't know if AEW is going to be the case, but this is obviously all speculative. We don't know what numbers we're talking about or what Tony's willing to pay for his toys. So we just don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So the next one to talk about then, Anthony, is Mr. Kennedy. Indeed. So he rocked up on Insight with Chris Van Vliet, and he revealed that he's been slowly making his way back into the wrestling industry after he took a break in 2019. He was quoted as saying, "I'm really starting to get back into it. I have so many great students. They've sort of fueling that passion for me again. I plan on taking more bookings coming up here. I'm not done, for sure." Now, as we know, one of the shining moments of Mr. Kennedy's time in WWE were, his promos, how good he was on the mic, and the kind of charisma and aura that he had around him. So it then got Chris Van Vliet to kind of asking, well, we've seen the likes of MVP come back and take on a little bit of a managerial role and things like that. And obviously, he suggested with Mr. Kennedy's mic skills being so good, might we see him potentially follow suit? To which he replied, "I would like something like that for sure." So
nice,
interesting.
I just want Turn Up the Trouble again. That was a banger with him.
Which one though? Because they had a good one, then they kind of ruined it, didn't they? No.
I want the one that was done by, was he called Airborne?
Oh.
I'm trying to remember the name of the band now. They were a good band. Good band.
It was a good band. He did a good song one time.
The higher paced one with a bit more energy, not that stupid slow down one they did.
Yeah, see, I like that one. Yeah, but the slow one, I wasn't a big fan of. Turn up the treble till I get real. It's like,
yeah, they went too far.
Exactly. But yeah, that was an absolute banger of a song. But it's one of those, isn't it? I always I forget he exists, to be honest. So it's horrible for me to say. But I forget all about him, and then when you hear his name come up and stuff, you think, oh God, that guy could have done some good stuff. He was very high on the radar of Vince and the like, wasn't he? But couple of issues here and there, and some backstage politics,
A
essentially.
couple of issues. Randy Orton.
Yes, the Randy Orton effect. Kind of led to that not really going anywhere for him. So, yeah, it's a shame because he could have been something big. Obviously, a lot of, the Money in the Bank thing got ruined. His storyline being Vince's son got ruined. So, yeah, unfortunately it was...
No, they fixed that storyline. Thankfully, we got a really satisfying conclusion to who Vince McMahon's son was.
Well, of course. I mean, it was a better solution overall, wasn't it, I think? But
overall. And for the record, guys, anyone who's super intrigued, it was Airborne. Airborne did Turn Up the Trouble, which was Mr. Kennedy's theme music and a fucking banger of a tune. Check it out. Also, Airborne, actually a pretty good band. Listen to the album Running Wild. Tune into your iTunes or your Amazon Music or whatever the fuck you're listening to. But do it.
Have we got some kind of paid partnership that I'm not aware
like
of
that,
here?
Yeah, felt like that.
Also, make sure you come back next week to Anthony Google's things. We're renaming Ringside Report going forward.
This bugged me because I really liked Airborne as a band anyway, and then I couldn't remember the name of them.
Well, I mean, there's that, but you also went down the rabbit hole of trying to Google around bloody Bray Wyatt's return, so I think you're just in a googly mood, that's all I'm saying.
Getting googly.
So yeah, that's all I've got to say about Mr. Kennedy anyway. He's open to coming back to manager. There's no inclination anyone wants him to. It's basically the storyline.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you know what? Speaking of people who are open to coming back, well, I don't even know if he's open to coming back. I'm trying to segue here. Anyone who's been watching wrestling lately has been seeing the Maximum Male Models and Maxi Dupri and the current storyline with this. I noticed a very strange situation in which he revealed his sister, Maxine Dupri, and now has sort of made his exit from the storyline. And whilst it could all be story-wise and no one really knows, it would seem sources have indicated that Mr. Dupri, or formerly LA Knight, or formerly Eli Drake, or the real name of Sean Ricker, because fuck it, let's know him by everything we possibly can, Max Dupri has apparently rubbed some people up the wrong way. And the decision was actually made by Vince some weeks back to write him out of the storyline. Now, I don't know truly where he's headed after this, whether it's back down to NXT or whether his place is no longer with WWE, but it doesn't seem like he's been favoured very well backstage, which is madness because people were so big on LA Knight when he was in NXT, and everyone treated him like a big deal to the point that I'm like, is he? Who's this guy? Yeah. I think he was known fairly well on the Indies as Eli Drake. I don't know.
Well, he was on Impact route, wasn't he? I think there was some rumours around that time when he was in Impact as well of him rubbing people the wrong way. I think essentially they had to go on some kind of company retreat or some kind of fucking piss up basically before people were like, oh, okay, this guy's actually cool. So maybe it's just maybe it's part of his personality.
You've got to rub him the right way.
Well, you see, he was managing models. Maybe he decided to baby oil up, some people without permission. You never know.
Austin Theory.
I mean, he'd love that though, to be fair. Yeah. Remember that weird little gimmick after it was essentially they went, it'd be nice if you had something. What about US title? Yeah, good idea. Nah, that's not it. What about baby oil?
This is actually kind of what bugs me.
Money in the Bank briefcase. That's the one.
It's funny actually because you're about to go into a news topic that I want you to sort of keep that in the back of your mind, the stupid gimmicks that they put on the likes of Theory. I want you to keep that in the back of your mind when we talk about the next one that you're going to start talking about.
Okay. Well, I mean, let's act on
I have a little bit of an issue with some of this.
So, Anthony is, of course, alluding to the fact that the former, spoilers, Ring of Honor World Champion Jonathan Gresham has reportedly requested his release from the company. This is following an argument with Tony Khan that took place backstage at Death Before Dishonor. Now, according to Fightful, Gresham met with Tony Khan before the pay-per-view, and he was already more heated than usual regarding the direction of his booking and his character, and reportedly this led to a super heated discussion where Gresham reportedly cussed out Tony Khan. So it seems like essentially what had happened is Gresham wasn't a big fan of the heel turn that his character had gone on, and maybe he was somewhat unaware that he would be losing the title that night. Now, it's obviously comments around the communication in AEW and whether or not Tony Khan had communicated this in advance or whether he just kind of found out on the show that kind of thing. But yeah, reportedly there was some kind of huge, arguments between Gresham and Tony Khan to the point where Gresham is now asking for his release. So do you want to sync them back up with what you were saying about gimmicks?
Yeah, so Gresham made a comment during a lot of what's been said here, in which he was saying about, like, he's obviously a shorter guy. And he's referenced that, it basically that, I don't know if he specifically said that he was told to, but it certainly suggested that, like, he should have a gimmick. He needs a gimmick, and he was saying that other wrestlers, essentially alluding to race, that other wrestlers, they can just come out and they can just be wrestlers and they don't have to have a gimmick. And I was saying this to you the other day, and I'm trying not to be fair to Jonathan Gresham. He's entitled to his feelings on this, but I always consider every wrestler to have a gimmick of some sort. Like, regardless of, like, what that gimmick is, some of them can be subtler than others. But I mean, we've got fucking dead men, cowboys, zombies, essentially. We've got Austin Theory was like, well, we can't just have Austin Theory be a wrestler. Well, let's, like, give him a baby oil gimmick, or let's give him the Money in the Bank briefcase in itself as a gimmick, or let's do the selfies. There seems to always have to be something that draws the crowd in. And I am trying my best not to shit on Jonathan Gresham when I say this, but isn't that what the conversation is? You need a gimmick to, like, I totally agree with something you mentioned earlier, Carl, that in a business sense, the best thing was to put the title on Claudio, because he was a bigger, well-known name, and they want to get eyes on the title and the product. And you go, well, Gresham just wasn't as well-known. And that's no disrespect to Gresham. He's got bags of talent. I'd love to have seen what he did had he continued, because it seems like he's done with Ring of Honor, sadly. But at the same time, it's like, we didn't know him and we didn't know much about him. And gimmick-wise, he didn't have one.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, he is a shorter guy. He's apparently the same height as Rey Mysterio. And there are, as Rey Mysterio alluded to in his celebration, there are barriers to sort of break down there. But at the same time, I think he had all the tools to do that. But this sort of suggestion that, like, he should defy needing a gimmick, I think is crazy to me, because it's like, even people, like, you could, like, look and go, well, Moxley's not got a gimmick, but he's the edgy, like, tough guy. You know what I mean? It's like, that's still a gimmick, surely. Like,
yeah.
What point's a gimmick a gimmick?
Well, like, exactly. There needs to be something AEW, about that character, doesn't there?
AEW World, or former AEW World Champion Hangman Page has a cowboy gimmick. It's like, we've got an actual fucking dinosaur. Like, there's gimmicks all over the damn place. Like, his comments on gimmicks sort of puzzled me, and that's where the Theory one I thought was relevant, because I'm like, but Theory's had, like, a ton of gimmicks because they just felt the pressure or the necessity to put a gimmick on him. That's how, for me, that's how intrinsic it is in wrestling, that a wrestler has to have a gimmick. He has to have something about his character.
Yeah, I mean, you can call it gimmick, you can call it whatever you want, but essentially it's some kind of personality that sets them apart in some way, shape, or form. Now,
exactly.
The point I made about Jonathan Gresham and not being as well known, and obviously Claudio Castagnoli coming in and getting his first singles title and kind of bringing that, that's going to get more eyeballs on Ring of Honor, which is what Tony wants. And I said the same thing about AEW. I'm not shitting on Hangman Page. I love Hangman Page. But I said, you need to put it on the likes of CM Punk or someone like that. And obviously that's what happened. It went on Punk. It's now gone on Moxley.
Yeah.
It needs
to... It's reasonably polarizing, isn't it? Because, when AEW first started, they put it on Jericho. And that made sense because Jericho was a big name to start the company off. And then you get down the line and you want to be able to rely on people like Hangman. But at the same time, Punk was a big deal and it made sense because you're still trying to build that audience. So, like you say, it's a business decision ultimately, isn't it?
Well, exactly. It's one of them. You want to build new stars, but at the same time, you need eyeballs on your show to see those stars be built, if that makes sense. So it's a very fine balancing act with when you push these people. So I don't think Hangman's reign was a flop or anything like that, but I think they could have, AEW needs to strike while the iron is hot, and they had CM Punk there, and it had already started to feel like, well, he came up on Rampage and it kind of petered out, and that's not what you want. So it's like, let's give him the title, and that's what they've done. So yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah, it seems like he very much doesn't want to be working with Tony Khan at the moment, Jonathan Gresham, and he's asked for his release. Nothing's come out to say that's been granted, so we will have to keep an eye on it and see what happens.
It could be that they carry on talking and they get to a point. But yeah, a strange situation to say the least. He's put a lot of work into Ring of Honor. It'd be a shame for him to just leave like that, especially when Ring of Honor is starting to pick up as under the Tony Khan reign. That's it.
Indeed.
Crazy stuff. Speaking of crazy stuff, Rey Mysterio, Carl, obviously recently had a celebration for how long he's been in the biz, and the question came up, how long does he intend on still wrestling? People like, come on, Rey, surely now it's time to. I'm kidding, he didn't do that. But the question was, when does Rey look at, like, what's a retirement time for Rey? And he was fairly honest about this conversation, Carl. He was saying that he's always had 50 in his mind. Don't go past 50 was the way he had it in his mind. But then he's also, he's gone to himself, what if I feel good? What if I feel healthy? What's wrong with 51 kind of thing. But at present, 50 is what's in his mind. And then obviously we're talking about people they've struggled to retire from the business. And say, like, the likes of Ric Flair, for an example, he's having his last match again in a couple of weeks. So, like, can Rey truly say he's done when he says he's retired? Is that going to be it, or could he get the itch again? And again, he's been reasonably honest with that, saying that he doesn't think he'll struggle once he retires to stay away from wrestling, because he gets to watch his son wrestle and essentially get that sort of second sort of life with the business, if you will, just enjoying his son's career and following his son's career in that sense. So he seems, at this point, he's not saying 100%, but he seems fairly resolute in 50 is going to be his finishing point, which sadly is not that far off. So what do you make of this, Carl?
I mean, how far off is it? I don't know how old he is. He must be like mid-40s, slightly later 40s. Here we go. Anthony Google shit again.
He's 47, Carl. He's 47. I didn't notes.
I mean, to be fair, for 3 more years, it feels like a lot, to be fair. But obviously, I'm not the biggest Rey Mysterio fan. It's an interesting one. I think.
That's a lot of Rey.
That's a lot of Rey. That's a lot more Eddie references. But yeah, essentially, I think wrestling's kind of like a drug, isn't it? And the roar of the crowd, the adrenaline you get to be in front of them audiences and stuff like that. It's very hard to give up. As you said, you reference Ric Flair. You've seen it in the movie The Wrestler.
Adrenaline in his soul.
Well, exactly. So it is really hard to step away from that. So it's nice that he's kind of saying he thinks he'll find it easy because he's got Dominic in the business and stuff like that. But I mean, and again, this isn't probably a popular opinion, but I think Dominic's really not ready. So I think he needs to take some time and actually learn how to be a pro wrestler before he can, Rey can sit there going, I'm going to be able to watch my son, because
I think who his dad is has been a problem for him, because he's having to cut his teeth in the wrestling business on TV in front of tens of thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's kind of weird. So I think he looks even greener because of it. But here we are.
Well, yeah, that's it. I think obviously WrestleMania we had Logan Paul, in the match with him, and Logan Paul looked like a better wrestler than Dominic. So It's not a good look to have. But yeah, at the end of the day, Rey Mysterio said he wants to keep going until he's 50 or maybe slightly more than that. That's only a couple of years away. I think it would be nice to just, I don't know, I guess I thought it would be sooner. Like, it seems like they're building up some kind of thing. Hoped. Like, they're building up some kind of thing, aren't they, with like Dominic and Rey, where, are they going to turn on each other, whatever. Like, I assumed we might get some kind of mask versus career thing coming up at like WrestleMania Hollywood or something like that.
On that, do they?
But yeah, we haven't seen that, seems to be the case at the moment. So 3 years' time will feel like a long time, I think, for Rey. And for us trying to still get behind Rey in that time, because...
Doesn't Rey get all these stem cells injected into himself all the time, though?
No idea.
Okay. I feel like he got some of that wild treatment, didn't he?
Maybe. So yeah, interesting one. All I will say is, hopefully it's not 3 years.
Savage.
And so the last one to talk about today, so Lana. Remember Lana?
No.
Well, let me remind you who that bitch is. She obviously was in WWE a couple of... When did she get released? About 2 years ago, something like that. Obviously...
I want to say 2. Like, she was around for the Bobby Lashley stuff.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like that long ago.
No, so she was heavily involved in stuff. I think the last we saw of her was in some kind of feud with Nia Jax about being put through a table or something like that. and obviously is the wife of former WWE superstar Rusev, who is now AEW star Miro. But basically, Lana has kind of stepped away from the wrestling scene since her release. So she's been working on things like a movie with Bruce Willis, which is coming out soon, and also launching cjperry.com, which is her kind of pay-per-view website, essentially, if you will. So
OnlyFans, if you will.
Yeah, essentially, but not under that platform. So
no, because now she gets all the money.
Well, indeed. But Lana has recently tweeted, sparking some speculation that she may be set for a in-ring return. So she tweeted, "I hope to return to wrestling someday. My love for the fans and wrestling runs so deep." So one of those, obviously, she's clearly still keen on the wrestling scene. Whether we will get to see her back.
I honestly thought we heard a while back that she was trying to break into the soap opera world, and didn't really have a lot of design on wrestling. So that's interesting to me, though.
Yeah, it is interesting. We just spoke about it being quite an addictive thing. I guess missing the roar of the live audience and stuff like that. It's obviously a very exhilarating experience. So it's one of those. Obviously, Miro has just signed a long-term contract extension with AEW. So, if she does come back, where will she go? Will she go to WWE, where she has worked without a husband in the past, or will she, give Miro some, Lana Day?
I kind of hope that they stay separate. I don't think they've ever really worked as a duo.
Oh, I don't know. I think it definitely worked to start.
What?
I think it definitely worked to start with when she was like the ravishing Russian.
Well, yeah, I suppose
and stuff like that.
But I think what we need to watch out for with AEW, though, is she rocks up with AEW, we then suddenly have a lot of couples there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. It's just.
I mean, to be fair, like, I say a lot of couples. It's only really, I suppose, Sammy and Take On To You on screen. Like we know about Jungle Boy and Anna, but they're not really like an on-screen partnership, are they, and stuff like that. So maybe it's not a lot. I don't know.
Yes, one. So many.
Because you got P Ford and Kip Sabian if he ever comes back.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just trying to think of others now to justify.
You've got Ali and the Blade.
Ali and the Blade. See, so it's just happening all the time. They need to stop, or they're going to end up with couples championships.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past them, to be fair. But, yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting one. She could add something to Miro's character, potentially, in AEW. But if she does end up coming back to it and goes back to WWE, if they want her, then, I don't know. I think she was starting to look really good towards the end of her run. You could tell she'd been putting a lot of work in, and she'd improved a lot in the ring. So it'd be nice to see her come back in that regard, to be honest, to get the rewards for her efforts. But yeah, all remains to be seen. Nothing's certain, but she does say that ideally she'd like to come back at some point. So we will see.
And there you have it.
There you have it.
That's the news.
And that's the way the cookie crumbles. A little bit of a Bruce Almighty reference for you there. So yeah, another fun-filled news episode. Obviously, if you haven't caught This Week in Wrestling, bloody watch it, will you? Or bloody listen to it. Need some love, that one. That's our least love segment.
This Week in Wrestling. The fuck you playing that?
Exactly. So go and show that some love. And stick around, because we're going to be talking our SummerSlam predictions right after some words from the wonderful Griff Garrison.
Hey guys, it's Georgia Smith here, and you've heard me on A2theK. These guys are awesome. Check it out. A2theK.
A2theK.